Hey everybody, Andy Duffey here, pastor at Antioch Church of the Brethren, and Pastor Bilbo. Bilbo, can you say hi? Can you look over here? There he is, say hi, Pastor Bilbo. You have no idea what we're doing. That's okay, bud, that's okay. So I'm bringing another devotional today. We're walking with Jesus through his last week, every day, telling a little bit more of the story as Jesus walks toward the cross and to Easter morning. Yesterday we talked about the Last Supper and the giving of the bread and cup of communion, and some of the deeper meanings behind that. Today we move on to a conversation that really just happens in one gospel, in Luke. And it's a conversation that I think, again, has a lot of layers of depth to it. So listen to this from Luke 22. A dispute also arose among them as to which of them was considered to be the greatest. Jesus said to them, "The kings of the Gentiles lord it over them, and those who exercise authority over them call themselves benefactors. But you are not to be like that. Instead, the greatest among you should be like the youngest, and the one who rules like the one who serves. For who is greater, the one who is at the table or the one who serves? Is it not the one who is at the table? But I am among you as one who serves. You are those who have stood by me in my trials, and I confer on you a kingdom, just as my Father conferred one on me, so that you may eat and drink at my table in my kingdom, and sit on thrones judging the 12 tribes of Israel." I think it's interesting that this only appears in Luke. I think this is really a central idea of Jesus's. In all the Gospels, he says something along the lines of the first will be last, the last will be first. A great reversal, right? Whoever has now may not have later, and those who don't have now will be blessed later. There's this idea of the kingdom that Jesus is bringing is going to be turned upside down from what is currently the way things tend to be. The rich and the poor, the powerful and the vulnerable, right? The privileged and the victimized. These things are all going to be turned upside down to some extent. And we are meant to live into that even now. We're invited to join our lives to the kingdom that Jesus is bringing. Hey, Pastor Bilbo, you falling asleep? Go ahead, keep sleeping. Man, he's worse than some of y'all in the pews, I'll tell you what. Alright, so you ever notice how every group that you're a part of has certain power dynamics at play? Some of us don't want to admit it, but every time we get together with other people, we instinctually take stock of each other's strengths and weaknesses. We take note of ways that we might be able to get the upper hand, come out on top if there's tension, if there's stress, if there's a conflict. And we're doing these things often unconsciously, subconsciously, without even being aware. Right, Bobo? Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Dogs do the same thing, right? You introduce a new dog into a dog park or a group of them, and immediately they're taking stock. Who has the power? Who's the alpha, right? What's the pecking order in the scale? Who is in charge and who's on the bottom? Bilbo is in charge in this house. That's for sure. So, thinking about the power dynamics that kind of drive the way our world works, right? We found all the institutions in our culture on hierarchy, right? On rank, right? On authority. Well, where does the buck stop? Who's at the very top? Who's the head boss? Who is the one person who doesn't have to report to anybody else, which there may not actually be anybody, right? But everybody reports to someone above them, and everyone has people beneath them. And Jesus is kind of saying here, yeah, that's the way the world works, but you are not to be like that. Instead, the greatest among you should be like the youngest. The one who rules should be like the one who serves. Now, we may have heard that a lot, but it's really a pretty controversial thing. And if we were to live it out, it'd be even crazier in action. What would this look like for what's going on with you right now? How do we live into a world in which the greatest are the servants? in which we don't judge people based on power, but a willingness to get a little dirty to help someone else, to put yourself in a vulnerable situation, to take a risk in order to help someone, rather than looking at other people as things to benefit us. Jesus really does throw a bomb into the Last Supper when he says, one of you is about to betray me, right? Because that's what sets off this conversation, and the disciples are going, oh, it couldn't be me. I bet it's that guy. I bet it's you. I bet it's Bartholomew. We never hear anything about Bartholomew or Thaddeus, right? What's up with that guy? I bet he's a betrayer, right? And pretty soon that becomes, well, which of us is the best, right? Which of us is the head disciple, right? Which of us has got it all going on, right? And we might assume Peter is in that role. He gets a lot of attention, right? But we know that right after this, and tomorrow we're going to talk a bit more, Peter is the one who maybe fails the most in the day to come. And some of you probably know about that already. So let's be very careful as we judge these kind of things, as we navigate the power dynamics in the world around us. Even if it's just in your families, with your friends, online, this thing happens the same way, just as it does in the seats of government and power, in every business. How do we define power? And how do we transform the system so that what is important isn't having power over other people, but serving beneath people, lifting them up, supporting other people, even being willing to not get all that we feel we deserve in order that someone else might succeed. Greatness in the kingdom of God is defined by servanthood. And we'll talk a little more about that on Sunday as well. This is the world that God is building among us and through us even now. I pray that God will reveal what that means for you today, to live by a different set of rules and priorities. Find a way to bend down to serve someone in love today. May that be the case for all of us. Everybody be safe. Feel free to comment. Bilbo and I would love to hear from you, right, Pastor Bilbo? And we'll see you later. Bye.